Isn't it interesting that the people that we love the most are often the ones who can upset us the fastest? That smallest comment, it could be the tone of their voice or a habit, and it could stir something deep inside of us. But guess what? It's not always just about them. Today, we're going to unpack why the people closest to us tend to trigger us the most and what those reactions are actually trying to show you. So we are going to dive into this today. I've got a lot of great information that we're going to roll into, but I want you guys to start with kind of thinking of a real life example for you in your life, because otherwise this is just a presentation. I want to bring you into this because my intention and my hope is that you're going to walk away with some real tangible tools to be able to help you with those relationships, those people that are closest to you. So think of somebody that you love, right? And let's just say you had a conversation recently that it was a very neutral conversation. Nothing crazy was said, but it really landed hard. Okay. And then maybe you walk away from that and you're like, gosh, why did that bother me so much? Sometimes I notice that when there's like several people in a room and then somebody says something and everybody else is totally fine. But then you or me, I should say, I'm like, gosh, like that really irked me. Or you could see other people where somebody else gets irked and maybe they walk away, and you're just like, what is that trigger? So I want you guys to think of a real life example as we're walking through this presentation today. Okay. So, um, you know, these are people we care about, right? And so it hurts us sometimes. It's like, what's wrong with me? Why am I doing this? So I want you guys to start with asking yourself a couple questions. Who are those people that trigger you more than you wish that they would? Or that they did, right? Who are those people that are like that one person? It's almost like you have to set yourself up before you even see them, because you're like, oh my gosh, I know this is going to happen. They're going to drive me crazy. So you have to have this internal conversation with yourself. Okay. And do you ever feel frustrated with yourself and for why you're reacting so strongly? Right. So we're going to take a look and take a deeper dive into why we are acting this way. Because again, we can't change other people, even though we wish we could. We can't change them, but we can change ourselves in the way that we're going to react once we have and build an awareness around what's going on. So, closeness intensifies emotion. It's going to bring that guilt, the confusion, the shame. And the closer we are to someone, the more they are home, quote unquote, home. Okay. And I want you to let's think about like maybe a first date. Okay. Or let's think about your first day on a job. Or let's think about the first time you're meeting someone. Don't you feel like you bring on your very best self? You're patient, you're attentive, you're guarded, you're thinking, you're more put together, right? And then let's think about after you know somebody a little bit longer. Let's just say maybe you're in a relationship for a while and you're sitting around on the couch and you're just in your sweats and you're comfy and you're cozy, and maybe you don't even do your hair and you're just like sloppy but comfortable. Okay. Or maybe it's in the workplace after you've been working somewhere for a while. You think about the first day that you met them, you give that strong handshake, and then after a while you're like in the break room and you're like, oh my gosh, complaining about the boss or whatever. Think about the change, the shift in when you're not as close to someone and then when you let them in. Okay? So what happens is we're wearing this armor and then we take it off. Okay? So closeness is going to intensify your reactions. Okay? So what triggering often looks like is the small comments that feel really big. Tone matters more than words. Okay, the way they're projecting themselves. You react faster than you want to react. You feel emotionally exposed. Okay, and triggers, they don't usually announce themselves. They show up, you start feeling that tightness and the irritation. Maybe you start crying. Maybe you walk away, you shut down. Think about what your reaction style is. Okay, what's the first signal you notice in your body when you get triggered? Everybody reacts different. There could be that tightness. It could be just, again, tears. For me, it's a lot of tears. Like, sometimes I just need to separate myself. Some people are more outwardly like they'll react. They'll say something rude. They'll interrupt. They'll do whatever. Think about you. Apply this to yourself. Do you react outwardly or do you turn more inward? Again, this is building an awareness, and these are just signals Okay, triggers are information. So, what we want to do is get out of the emotional state about what these people are doing or saying or why we're getting triggered. We want to get more into this structure where we're asking ourselves questions. We're curious. We're looking for signs because you guys, this once we get into that place of awareness, this is what is going to set us free, free from having to react the way that we're reacting. Just sit with that for a minute. If you could be around people that are triggering you but not be as reactive in it and be able to walk away from a conversation and just be like, well, you know what, I wouldn't expect them to act any other way, that's just who they are, and it's not our job to change them. So would that feel freeing if you could just let people be without trying to get angry and frustrated and hurt and offended every time they say something, and start saying, well, that's just how they are, and I'm not going to allow that to affect me anymore. Okay, so we're going to take radical responsibility for ourselves. Okay, so that we don't have to feel all of the feels. They're all going to be there. However, we don't have to give permission, because this is one of the biggest things that derail people from honestly living their most quality life. If you think about the emotion, the tension, the anxiety, the replaying the conversation over and over and over and over again, does that not distract us from living the life that we really want to live? Okay, so this is what's super important, is that you are going to be more in an empowered state. All right, so let's talk about where these triggers come from. Why am I triggered and somebody else isn't? Okay, and it goes back to these limiting beliefs. It's the story beneath the trigger. Okay, and these beliefs were formed long, long, long ago, back in our childhood or through your adulthood, but maybe through an experience that you had with another individual that maybe sets you off because you're comparing what's happening in this new moment to something that's happened before in the past. Okay, the present moment is just activating what pain you might have experienced before. And that's where we get to become more empowered and look a little bit deeper. Okay, so some of the old beliefs maybe that we've experienced in our past is I'm not enough, or maybe I'm not valued, or I have to protect myself. Okay, so I'm gonna go through, I've got, you guys, I was trying to like sum this up into like 2 or 3, but there's so many. I'm gonna encourage you guys to take some screenshots of the next 3 slides, because then you can go back and revisit them, because I wish I had enough time to go through every one in depth, but I don't. So I'm gonna go through a couple. I'm not enough. Maybe something happened in the past that made you feel that you are not enough. And then that triggers you to start feeling overly sensitive to criticism, or seeking reassurance all the time. Or maybe you're shutting down because you feel like you're being judged. Maybe your voice wasn't heard in the past. Maybe you were in a big family and maybe every time you tried to speak up, nobody heard you, right? So, what that does is if you're in a new conversation with somebody and you feel like you're not being heard, or you're being overspoken, or somebody's speaking over you, what triggers you is you start raising your voice and you're talking louder, or maybe keep repeating yourself over and over again, or you feel more frustrated quickly and then you emotionally withdraw. Okay, maybe in the past you felt like you were not valued or appreciated. So now in your adult present day, you start keeping score a little bit more, or you hold resentment, or you're feeling hurt when your effort is not acknowledged. Okay, proving your worth. Or if I speak up, I'll cause conflict. Here's the next slide if you want to screenshot this. If I set boundaries, I'll lose them. I'm responsible for how others feel. Love has to be earned. If I get too close, I might get hurt. I can't rely on others. Here's the last slide. Take a screenshot of this. My needs are too much. I always have to adjust. Conflict means something is wrong. I have to stay in control to feel safe. Relationships are exhausting. Now, the reason I want you guys to screenshot these and revisit them is because when you read the trigger and you see the way the reaction is, it's going to help you to build the awareness as to what's happening, because sometimes you might not think you've got that limiting belief. You may not even see that coming, but you're like, oh, why do I always feel frustrated and internally, and I'm feeling unseen? Why do I feel invisible when I'm in a group? Why do I feel like I have to prove myself or speak up louder? So when you read the triggers, that's going to then show you the limiting belief. And I really, really encourage you guys to spend some time with these, because these are the things where you're doing the internal work is what's going to help set you free, and not having so much grip and hold on those emotions that you're feeling, and feeling stuck in that place. Okay? So, questions to ask yourself when going back through those last 3 slides: which belief feels the most familiar to you? And does this belief show up in more than one relationship? Okay, so it's kind of like that saying of the you are the least, or the, what is it, the least common denominator in all of the relationships. So if it's happening here and here and here and here, and you keep showing up, is it their fault, or is it something that we can change within ourselves? Okay. And guys, honestly, it feels like this could be some very heavy work. However, it is the most freeing work, and it's so worth investing in yourself to learn what these things are that are holding you back. And I want to leave you with this. Triggers are not the enemy. And sometimes we feel so locked in to like the drama of what's happening. If you flip the script, and I'm offering you a new perspective, like I always like to say, they're invitations to understand what needs care. Okay? So love yourself through this, you guys. Really slow down to build that awareness. And I'm going to leave you with a couple of things. The next time that you're in a relationship, you're having a conversation with someone, you're feeling maybe the stress of even going into an event because you know somebody's going to be there, pause. Okay? Take a deep breath. Instead of judging that person, notice the reaction and realize, how have I reacted in the past? How am I going to react today? You get to create your own experience here, right? So walk in and tell yourself, I get to create my experience. Okay, nobody else is going to do that. That's one thing you have control of. You can't control how they're going to act. Expect it. Do not be surprised by it. They've always shown up this way. And realize that, okay, how am I going to feel right now? Right? I'm going to control my feelings, and I'm going to walk away from this event without feeling the way I used to, and I'm going to walk away feeling empowered and realize that I'm not going to change them. I can only change myself. Get curious about the belief, because the more curious you are, the more awareness that you're building around it, the more freedom that you've got in your life. Okay? The goal is not to stop the triggers. It's to understand it's to understand what they're trying to tell you. All right, you guys? So this week, I'm going to encourage you guys to look at this as an invitation to explore deeper what's going on. So the next time that you feel triggered, I want you to pause and ask yourself what that moment might be revealing, not just about them, but about something deeper inside of you. Now, if you're enjoying this work, I want to really encourage you to go watch the next 15-minute reset on understanding DISC and why people react so differently, because that framework was so life-changing and life-giving to me personally, and it's going to help you to see those interactions in a whole new way. But before you go, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. And if you want deeper tools to work through those triggers step by step, I've linked my workbook and my course below, as well as lots of other resources. So I'll see you in the next reset on how to get along with those people who challenge you the most. We'll see you there.